Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in my constructed video series. This is Brian Kibler with StarCityGames.com, and as you can see on your screen, we're going to be playing some Modern this week. We're going to be playing the Green-White Lingering Souls Wiltleaf Liege deck that I've been kind of messing around with. I had a version of this deck that I played a long time ago. I actually played it in Grand Prix Chicago, I want to say over a year ago. It was not long after the Pro Tour in Seattle? Yeah, not long after Pro Tour returned to Ravnica, where sort of Deathrite Shaman, Jund, sort of its coming out party. And basically, I wanted to play a deck that was very resilient to Jund, very resilient to Inquisition, Thoughtseize, Liliana, and ultimately just ended up playing with Smiter and Wiltleaf Liege, both of which are pretty powerful cards in their own right, and particularly powerful in the context of, there's a lot of discard spells floating around. Lingering Souls similarly is an excellent card in any sort of attrition matchup, and particularly good when you are fighting against people who are, trying to use Liliana, trying to use whatnot to disrupt you. Obviously, also just goes very, very well with Wiltleaf Liege and the Gavany Townships that this deck is featuring as well. The big difference between this deck and the previous one, the biggest differences, I think, are the removal spells. I'm playing Slaughter Pact in my main deck, along with only a couple of Paths and then some Dismembers. I was not a huge fan of Path to Exile in aggressive decks. I find that Path can be a little bit awkward, both to ramp your opponent in game situations where you're just trying to get damage through, as well as it's just not that effective against some of the stuff that you actually want to deal with. Against Twin, I really like Slaughter Pact. I think Slaughter Pact is an incredible card against a lot of different decks, and particularly there where your opponent will often try and tap you out with a Pestermite or Deceiver Exarch and then go for it. And if you have Slaughter Pact, you can often just beat them on the spot. So the rest of the deck is mana acceleration. The 8 mana creatures. It's a lot of mana, very dense mana in the deck, but you do have 3 copies of Gavany Township, as well as a couple of Horizon Canopies that give you both additional value out of having more mana and also just later game value out of your mana creatures, because you're able to pump them with Township. And Township also obviously pumping Lingering Souls, super powerful, and just pumping a lot of your little creatures. There's a couple of copies of Scavenge used. The 4 Pride Mages that have become kind of standard in almost all of my green-white decks. I think Pride Mage is just so good right now in Modern that it is crazy that people don't play more of them. A lot of people play none in their decks that are sort of structured not necessarily like this, but that are aggressive green-white or mid-range decks. And I think that Pride Mage is really good and is largely overlooked. Brimaz is another new addition. Brimaz goes very well with Wiltleaf Liege, goes very well with Gavany Township, and obviously with the mana creatures. Is another creature that can't be bolted. You can accelerate into a turn 2, and just presents a pretty fast clock. Brimaz works really well with Noble Hierarch. You actually, with Exalted, you still get the Exalted if you attack, and you still get the guy, Mondo combos. The other card here that is kind of a pet card of mine now is Ajani, Mentor of Heroes. Many of you who may have watched some of the previous videos I made for the Pillar of the Perins deck, as well as some other stuff I was playing, know that I have a kind of a soft spot for Ajani right now. I think the card's just really powerful. I think that a lot of modern decks like Jund and Blue-White Red and whatnot are very attrition based, and Ajani is a card that if you're in any kind of attrition matchup, it's very, very hard to beat. You're able to build your board out with the +1 counters, as well as just dig through your deck to find whatever it is you need. And just a very, very powerful card. It does have an immediate board impact when you play it, because the counters can swing games in board states pretty readily. Also, Linvala is a card that I think is really, really powerful. Linvala shuts down a lot of the major decks. Linvala in play against Splinter Twin, against Pod, against Affinity is just really powerful in all of them. And it's just generally like a good evasive creature in matchups against decks like Jund. So Linvala used to actually be excellent against Jund when they had a bunch of Deathrite Shamans that it shut down. Now it only really shuts down Scavenging Ooze. Some of them have things like Grim Lavamancer that it will also target, but it's less good than it once was, but still I think actually pretty good in those sort of matchups. Sideboard-wise, 4 Thoughtseize. The deck only has a couple of black mana sources, but Thoughtseize is just the absolute best card for disrupting combo decks that you can find in the format. You know, it is universally effective against so many different decks, and you know, that is why it shows up as a 4 in the sideboard. Torpor Orb, Mind Sensor, sort of some, you know, creature hate Torpor Orb. A lot of people have asked if I would replace Torpor Orb with Hushwing Gryff. The answer is no. Torpor Orb is vulnerable to less removal that people are actually going to have against you. If you're playing against Splinter Twin and you play a Hushwing Gryff, they can just bolt it or Lavamancer it or, you know, Fire Spout it or whatever. Whereas Torpor Orb, they need a very specific removal spell or Cryptic Command to actually get it off the board so they can go off. So overall, I think Torpor Orb is a superior card in those sort of matchups. Fracturing Gust I actually added after losing to Boggles, the very first match I played with the deck. The combination of Gust and Stony Silence is excellent against Affinity, but Gust also gives you some edge in you know, matchups like Boggles that you probably otherwise just going to get crushed in. You do have Pride Mage, which is, you know, valuable in all of those matchups as well, but Gust is really the sort of nail in the coffin. Choke, I love Choke. Screw you for playing blue. And then Ajani, just another Ajani for any sort of attrition-based matchup there. So, you know, Jund, blue at red, things like that. Comes in and does a really good job of putting the game away. So anyway, that's the deck we're going to be playing. It's a deck that I literally built on stream a week and a half ago or so, and I guess by the time you're watching this, it may be longer, but you know, it's a fun deck and has a lot of my favorite cards at least, and some new favorites too. So anyway, it's a deck that is good in some matchups and probably pretty terrible in others. It's, you know, not great against a lot of combo decks. You know, probably pretty terrible against Scape Shift, though having a bunch of fast clocks and discard spells can be very good there, as well as Mind Sensor. So we'll see. Anyway, let's jump into the queues. I've had some trouble actually finding opponents with version 4 now. The 8-player queues take forever to fire, but we're going to see if we can get into them. So here we go.